much. I'm going to tell the story that I wasn't going to tell you to embarrass you, but I am going to tell you. So when Jen reached out to me and said that, you know, her son and his buddies wanted to do something with this charity, I immediately thought, yeah, right, they're boys. And we haven't had the best luck when it comes to boys, when it comes to giving back. I don't know why that is, but, you know, we haven't had any Boy Scout groups, had tons of Girl Scout groups, Girls on the Run, Moms Clubs. Girls rock when it comes to giving back, but the boys have let me down a little bit. And so I was kind of surprised. So I said, okay, I'll do a Skype call with them. Let me really feel them out and see if they, and I had a call with these three guys. And, you know, I got off the phone, because they didn't really talk much, and I said to Reese, I said, I don't think this is really going to go very far. I said, you know, they're the typical boys. You know, I think that they're more interested in the sport that they're playing and the girl or the car. And I said, we'll see what happens. So then when I gave them a task to do, they actually did it and reached back out to me. And I was kind of shocked. And as I've watched this grow, I will tell you that for me, life is about learning stuff. And you three boys have taught me something. And what you taught me is that not to do what I try to get so many people to do is not to, you know, automatically think that you're a statistic. That you are the boys who aren't going to do anything. So kudos to the three of you. I am proud to know you, and I am so proud to say that you totally made me look differently about how the guys should be giving back. So, you know, most of you probably have seen our video. It's been viewed 53 million times. It is the most viewed, shared, and commented video in Upworthy history. But to give you a little bit of background, I guarantee you my life did not start out like any of your lives did. You know, I grew up in the rural parts of Virginia. The youngest of 10 kids. My mother had been married 6 times. She'd been in and out of shelters, abuse centers. We lived on the streets. We lived in cars. Life was hell. And I remember many times just hoping that we were going to eat. Hunger was something that I will tell you was more of the pain than the beatings that my father would give us children. So that was pretty bad. So I will tell you that, you know, people say to me all the time, what was the hardest part of your life? And it was hunger. It was the pit of your stomach not being able to eat. So I remember that as a kid. So when my parents died when I was 10 years old, I was put into care. And I actually thought I won the lottery. I thought, my gosh, they died, and I'm finally free. I'm free of being hungry. I'm free of feeling not loved. I'm free of no longer being beat. But little did I know that I went into foster care. And little did I realize that care really wasn't much different. I had an amazing foster mother who loved me deeply, but she had a very abusive husband. And so it continued. And then I carried a trash bag. And then I remember the very first night going into my very first foster home, and people ask me all the time, why do you put a bar of soap in a bag? I remember going into that home and getting into the shower for the first time and realizing that I was getting ready to use a bar of soap and put on my body from people that were living in this house and I didn't even know them. And if you don't think there's anything wrong with that, the next time you go to a hotel, I want you to call the room service and ask them to leave the bar of soap from the people that stayed in that room before you. Use it. Get in the shower, lather your body up, and use it. You won't do it. But every single day we expect kids in care to do that. We give them no dignity whatsoever. It was hard. We don't give them a toothbrush. We don't make sure that they have a new pair of pajamas. See, I say that we need a tag on every pair of pajamas, and that's because when my daughter arrived in my home, she was the saddest little girl I'd ever seen. She was 4 years old, and I thought she was never going to smile. We took her shopping, we bought her new clothes, we bought her toys. She never smiled. That night, after she had gotten out of the bathtub and she was in her bedroom, my husband had laid 3 nightgowns on the bed, and she went over and picked one up, and she tore the tag off, and she smiled. And I looked at her and said, why are you smiling? And she said, I'd never owned a new pair of pajamas before. That just blew my mind. That a pair of pajamas literally changed my daughter's life, who is now 13, getting ready to be 13, and she still talks about that tag on that nightgown. So little things like that. See, we have to realize as a community, it is our responsibility to give back. We have to realize that this is why our community was built. Most of you think that your community was built for the house that you live in and your bushes are the same and the colors of your home can match. That is not true. Community was built for you and I to take care of each other. If you need a piece of bread and I have it, I should give it to you, and vice versa. And we forgot that. And if you look at the statistics of the children that are in care, we have over 400,000 kids in care. Last year, 1.3 million people in the United States were incarcerated. 1.2 million of them had been in foster care at one time in their life. We're doing something wrong. The system is shattered. And let me tell you something. I hear people say, oh, it's broke. Well, no. Broken things can be fixed. Broken things you can put glue on and repair them. When it is shattered, you have to start over. We have shown that in 40 years in the foster care system, we have done nothing right. The problem is that we have a stereotype. Like I started the story out. The stereotype is that kids in foster care are black. The stereotype is kids in foster care are from all drug-addicted parents. Foster care is the fact that these kids are to amount to nothing. But I'm telling you, that's not true. Even though that the statistics will show you that only 3% of kids in foster care go to college, that's your fault. Even though the statistics show you that 7 out of 10 kids in foster care will be drug addicts and alcoholics, that's your fault. Even though that we know that our prisons are filled with kids from foster care, that is your fault. Why? Because you're the community. We have to remember that. We have to remember that it's our time to step up. You've all heard my story. You can all stand around and pretend like you didn't once I leave this house. But in the back of your mind, you know you have to do something. So what do? We start like this. We start getting grassroots groups together and saying, we are not going to allow the statistics to happen any longer. Your tax dollars are paying for these kids to be in prison. Your tax dollars are paying for these kids to live in shelters. Your tax dollars every single day are going to waste if we don't do something with these kids while they're in care. See, for me, when I turned 18, I was a senior in high school. Nobody came to me and said, let's fill out college applications or go show me a college. Nobody came to me and to a guidance counselor and said, you know what, Robert? You're a good kid. Let's get you into a school. Instead, what they did is they turned their head, because if they had to talk about me, then they had to talk about the fact that they knew I was a statistic. So he was that kid. He wasn't going to prom because he was that kid. He wasn't affording a cap and gown to graduate because he was that kid. And that kid was in that system. So let's get him 18 and let's get him out of the system, and then let's make him homeless. So when I turned 18 and I was a senior in high school, I became homeless, literally living on the streets. I would go to school every single day and I would steal food off people's plates. I would go into the trash can after someone would dump their lunch tray and figure out what I could take out and put in my bag, because I knew that nighttime, it was a Friday, and I was going to be so hungry over the weekend. I remember going back to my 30th high school reunion last year, and I asked, could I speak? And they said, yeah. And I stood up and I said, I'm sorry. And somebody said, what are you sorry for? And I said, because I stole food from you. I stole food from you because in the pit of my stomach, I was hungry. I remember students coming up to me afterwards saying, we forgive you. And I said, but you never looked at me. Maybe you looked at me because I had holes in my shoes, or I smelled, or my clothes were dirty, but you never really looked at me. I now stand as a 50-year-old man, and I'm proud of where I came from. I teach my children every single day. There are 3 things that you must do. You must, 1, use your listening ears. I will guarantee every single person in this room, you will come across people who have a story. We all do. Listen to them. You must use your kind words, because I will tell you, look at your history books. History will show you that there has never been anything changed with bad words. Hurtful and hateful words out of people's mouths has never changed anything. But the most important thing that you should do is do what these three boys have done. You lead by example. You do not sit on the sidelines and watch people play. You get into the game. Don't stand around and watch this go by. You need to start helping to fix it. So as you go into hotels and you stay in a hotel, you save the shampoo and the bars of soap. When your parents take you to the dentist, you tell the dentist office about kids that are in foster care who don't have a toothbrush. By the way, my daughter had 8 cavities when she arrived in my home at the age of 4. Those dentist office they get the toothbrushes for free. Have them donate them. When you get a couple of extra dollars in your pocket, think maybe at Five Below I can grab a couple of cases and fill it up. When you're done reading that book that sits on your shelf and it only collects dust, set it aside for a kid in care. I will tell you all right now as kids, education is the only thing that separates you from kids in foster care. It is not the color of your skin, but it's your education level. So we must teach them that they have every chance that you have. By the way, they deserve every chance that you have. So thank you all for listening to my story again. I can't thank you enough for giving back. I can't thank you enough for making sure that we know as humanity, this is where we should be. This is what is important. No matter what happens in our country, we have to understand that it's up to you and I to take care of each other. It's up to you and I to make the wrongs right. It's up to you and I to show the children in care that they do have a choice. Life is about choices. I hear people say, oh, you're a product of your environment. No, you're a product of a choice. You're a product of a choice to wake up this morning, to come to this home and pack a case. You're a product of a choice to whether or not you want to leave this home and talk to other people about care. You're a product that choice is yours to do. So don't ever let anybody tell you that you're a product of an environment. You're a product of a choice. And it's up to you to make the right choices. So thank you guys. You guys all rock. So.
Thank you. Love you.